Hi, Nikki.
Ah, Hi, everyone. Okay, so I am going to take questions at the end if you want to put any in the chat. Beck's going to be looking out for me on that. Um, I have to admit, I never look at the chat while I'm doing this. I get into mode. Um, but hopefully, we're going to have a really useful session for you today. And what I wanted to get into and focus on is a couple of the questions that I get asked. Is my website, how do I know if my website's getting traffic? And really importantly, what metrics should I be looking at on my website? So we're going to look at the tools that you should have set up to make sure you're capturing that information and the basics of what you should track and actually how you can find that in all of these tools. There's a lot of information that you can get in all of these tools, and they will help you with things like decisions that you might have about strategy and about SEO. But we're going to limit down really to those top level ones today that everyone should be tracking. And to finish off, I'm going to try and answer that question that I get asked a lot of, how can I work out if my website needs SEO? Or whether it needs to be redone completely. And if I get time, I'm going to try and throw in a couple of hints as well. And hopefully we should have time for that. And I'm just getting my mouse not coming anywhere near my screen. Okay, found it. Right. So did you know that 90% of the web pages on the internet don't actually get any traffic at all? And some people don't even know if they are getting that traffic, because even if they've got those tools set up, they don't actually look at them. And don't worry, I'm not going to actually ask each of you if you know how much traffic you get to your websites, because I'm pretty sure some of you might not actually know. But I think this quote actually sums up why people don't go and look. Because if you don't collect any metrics, you're flying blind. If you collect and focus on too many, they might be obstructing your view. And I think that's what happens. I think a lot of people might have Google Analytics set up, but they're not looking at it because it's just too overwhelming. But it's really important that you do, because you spend a lot of time or a lot of money getting these websites set up, and they have a reason. You're trying to get the traffic into your business and the leads into your business. So we've got to make sure they're working. And to answer that, we need to collect these metrics. So the first step is we're going to go through what tools we should have set up. Now, every website, no matter what platform you're on, should have about at least two of them that I'm going to take you through, and possibly the third one. The first one that I want to talk about is one that doesn't actually seem to be set up much at all. It's called Google Search Console. You can just Google it and set up your own one in there. It's like many of these tools that you need to set it up in two places. You need to set it up in Google Search Console itself, and then it'll give you some code, and you have to put that on your website platform. And for those who are on WordPress, I've actually got a tip on making that a little bit easier coming up. So why should I have Google Search Console set up? It is actually one of the tools that I find the most useful that you can have. A couple of the reasons. The first one is that it helps you to index your site. Now, many sites out there have been set up and don't actually have any links to them. And Google only finds new sites by going down the links of other sites. So if you have another website pointing to you and that site's indexed on Google, then over time it'll finally go down the link and it will find your site. So if you're a new site, you might not be getting any traffic because you haven't been indexed at all. That's a problem. And it's really easy to overcome, because you can come into Google Search Console and just request for them to index your site. It's also a handy tool if you've got new blogs, because you can get your blogs pages indexed as soon as you put them up by going in and just requesting Google to index that blog page. It's another side of it is that it's really handy for technical issues, because Google will actually tell you if there's problems on your website that it doesn't like. So that's problems that it's actually kind of downgrading you in the search results because you've got these problems. So it'll alert you to them, and it has pages where you can go and see each of those errors, and you can see what the problems are. Things like broken links, where you've got a link on your page and it doesn't go to another page. But the reason that I want it for the measuring side of things is that it actually is the step before your Google Analytics. So Google Analytics traps information when people come to your website, but Google Search Console will tell you how many times you show up in the search results and if people clicked on those. So you can see on this screen, this is the performance. It'll show you some of the statistics, and it'll actually show you right down the bottom here some of your queries that were searched on, and the impressions, which is when you show up in a search result, and the times people clicked on it. So impressions are really what it's showing you, and that's a really important metric that you want to think about. The other thing I just want to point out with Google Search Console is that it is specifically for Google. So these results that show in here are for when people search in Google. So the impressions and the clicks are in Google. The second tool we're going to look at is our Google Analytics 4. It tracks what happened on your website. So how many people came, how long they stayed, what pages they went to, where did they come from? Because this is not just Google, it tracks where the other info comes from. So things like coming from Bing search engine. It might be your email links, your social media, your referrals from other websites. And it also tracks some details about the users from cookies that are tracked. So you can find out what countries they came from, whether they use desktop or mobile, what type of mobile they actually used in some cases. Now, cookies are tracked still, but they are going to be turned off at some stage. So I just want to warn you about that. Some of that information will disappear. Now, once again, you set up Google Analytics accounts by going into Google Analytics, setting up an account in there, and then getting a piece of code, or it actually has a number as well that you can use on some websites, platforms. So some website platforms will need the code, some will just need the number. And it is a number in Google Analytics 4. Now, I do worry about this one because there has been a changeover in the tool. It used to be Google Analytics Universal. And a lot of people had that set up and running, maybe not looking at it, they had it running and collecting all those metrics. And last year, it was turned off in about June. It stopped tracking the information. And people had to change to Google Analytics 4. And then this year, the Google Analytics Universal's data is being removed. I just put up a YouTube video a couple of weeks ago about how you could capture that information. So some people might still have their Google Analytics Universal sitting there. If you want to capture that data, I've got a video on how you can do that. But I do worry because I think some people have told me, yeah, I've got Google Analytics 4 set up, and I'll look and they've got the account set up in there, but they haven't actually put the new code onto their website. So it isn't actually tracking. If you're worried about it, all you have to see is if you've got that, if you've got some tracking happening, if you've got some data coming through when you go into Google Analytics, then it is working. Okay, so the next one is Google, oh, sorry, I'll start that bit again. Google Analytics 4 is really useful for most of the information that you'll need, but there are some conversion events on your website that may need another tool, and that tool is Google Tag Manager. So this is for tracking events when things happen on my page. If I want to track how many people grabbed one of my freebies on my page, and when they press a button, it goes to a new page that says something like, here's your freebie, or your freebie's on its way in an email, then that's fine, because I can track that in Google Analytics 4, because I can actually track that page, how many people got to that page. But if I have a contact form and there's a submit button on it, and it doesn't go to a separate page, but the form actually just changes to say thanks, then I'm going to need to track that with a new tool, Google Tag Manager, because it can track buttons on your page. So that's why we use Google Tag Manager, one of the reasons. Once again, you set up an account in Google Tag Manager, and then you apply some code to your website. But unfortunately, this one has a little bit more work to it, because you have to do some more steps to tag that particular button in Google Tag Manager. And then you go into Google Analytics, and you say this event is when I click on this button in Google Tag Manager. And then the information will feed through to Google Analytics 4 along the time, over time. So it is a bit more involved, but it isn't something everyone needs, just if you need to track those particular buttons. Now, I have some additional tools if your website's a WordPress site. One tool that I think is really great is Google Sitekit plugin. So if you haven't set up your Google Analytics 4 or your Google Search Console, then you can put this plugin on your website, and you can set up those tools through it, and all the work's kind of done for you. So it's a great plugin for a WordPress site. It also shows you a little dashboard, bringing some of that information into the one place if you want. So it's a great little tool. Of course, being an SEO consultant, I can't step past or not mention that when we're adding plugins to our WordPress sites, we should always make sure we've got an SEO plugin on there. There's a couple of them out there, Rank Math, Yoast, all in SEO. The one that I actually recommend is Rank Math, because it actually has more free features in the free version than the Yoast plugin does. And if you have Yoast, it's very easy to move to it, because you just install it, and there is a migration tool that brings any info you've done in Yoast over. So that is something I couldn't get past saying. Okay, so what metrics should I actually care about? Because we're collecting them now, but what should I actually worry about? And I want you to think of your website as a funnel, because it is one of your sales funnels coming into your business. So let's go through this funnel. And I'm going to say there's lots of ways, lots of parts to this, and they might be slightly different for each of you. And it's one of the steps that I think people should sit down and work through, which bits they want to actually track through their business and what funnel parts are important to them. So we start off, and we have lots of ways that people can come into our website. Starting at the top, we've got prospects that know us and they just type in our URL or bookmark us. We then have prospects that know our brand and actually search for our brand, like Automate Now. Then we might have prospects that use search terms, keywords, so phrases and words, and we come up in the results in Google. We might have some Google ads running. They might be feeding into our website. We might have some prospects coming from our Google business profile. We might have some prospects that are coming from someone else's website, and we want to track those. And then we might have some prospects who come from our socials or from our emails. So there's all sorts of ways that people can come in. They come into our website and we get our click to our website. Then on our website, we've generally got some type of call to action that we want them to do. We've got a contact form. You might have a newsletter form when they sign up, or you might have, what else you might have on there? You might have some sort of, your telephone number, something like that. So they're going to be our leads that we need to capture, these people who have done one of our calls to action. And then once they contact us, we're obviously going to try and make the sale with them. If we're a service business, that's generally our process. If you're an e-commerce business, then usually you skip the lead stage and go straight to the sales when you direct them into your shops. And I'm going to say, if you are a product site, then it's really wise to have it as an e-commerce site, because each of these little arrows are spots where people actually can fall out of our funnel. And if you've got these 2 steps instead of the 1 step, you're actually probably losing more sales in that. And obviously, if we want more sales, then we need more leads, then we need more clicks to our website, and we need more of these prospects coming in, which we call impressions. The other way, though, that I can increase these sales is that I can actually increase the percentage of people that take each of these steps. So if I have, 1 out of 10, we make the sale from a lead. Then if I improve my conversion rate to 3 out of 10, then obviously I'm getting more sales without having to actually increase the top of the funnel. So I might be looking at getting better at my pitch or getting a better nurture sequence to get them in. And sometimes that's actually more effective than trying to increase the start of the funnel. So not only do I want to track those clicks, my impressions, my clicks, my leads, my sales, I want to track this click-through rate so I can improve that. And that is my clicks divided by the impressions before it. Now, that's really important for things like the prospects using my keywords, the Google ads, and the Google business profile. I want to see how many times did they click on our website result divided by how many times I actually showed up in the list, the impressions. And then I can compare those to maybe industry standards or to my previous history and see how I'm doing and actually improve that one. And in this case, I'm looking at making things like my meta titles and descriptions better, my ad text better, or optimizing my Google business profile. Then I want to look at the lead conversion rates, which are the leads divided by the clicks. And on this one, I'm generally trying to improve my website design so more people click on my call to action. And then I want to do my sales conversion rate, which is the number of sales divided by the leads. And of course, that's going to be getting better at my sales pitch or my nurture sequence. Now, most of these we can do with the tools that I've mentioned, but unless you're an e-commerce site, you can't really do that last step automatically. It's not surprisingly, it's the one step that people don't do enough of checking how many people of these sales did I get from my leads. And it's not a hard question to ask. It's just one question. How did you find us when you do a sale? So make sure that's a step in your process that you do so that you are actually checking how you got each of these sales. The other thing I want to point out is that tracking is good when it's compared to last month or last year, but I really feel that it's good to track over time because then I can see seasonal effects as well. Now, all of that might have seemed quite a bit overwhelming. So I always think it's good to just drill in on maybe one of these funnels and not worry about all of the different prospect leads. Just focus on the one to start with that really is your main funnel and get it right. And in that way, you can bring it down to just 7 items. So your organic impressions, your keywords maybe. And as an SEO person, I like that one, is to be the one that you focus on. How many impressions you get in the search engines. Your click-through rate, clicks to your website, your lead conversion rate, the number of leads, the sales conversion rate, and the number of sales. Okay, so where can I find each of these metrics? Well, I like to make things as easy as possible. I don't want to go each month into all of the tools and hunt them down. And I'll probably forget where it is each time. So the easy answer is that you can use another tool set called Google Looker Studio. It's a dashboard tool that you can use, set up by Google, free tool, and you can design your own dashboard. So you can bring this information. It can bring in information from Google Tools, YouTube, and Google Sheets, which is very useful. And there are a number of other providers or data accumulators that you can bring the information in with. So you can go and set these up. You can put things like, on this dashboard, I've got that, you can see the blue line is my impressions, my clicks, my leads, my sales. And above it, I've got my click-through rate, my lead conversion rate, my sales conversion rates. I put those in with what they called cards, which is just the number for my period that I'm selected. And then it shows me the previous period up or downs. But you can also put in things like graphs, bar graphs, charts, pie graphs, all sorts of different ones on the dashboard. And I can see with that, I can then see over time how things have gone. For example, in this one, I can see that I had a drop in April, but I'm not worried about it because it seems to be a seasonal thing. Each year we seem to drop in April, which might be because of Easter. And you'll find that on your site. Sometimes people have drops because of Easter, Christmas. A lot of sites have drops. School holidays do impact a lot of businesses. So it really depends on your products where you can see that. Okay, so that's a really good tool set. I do a service where I can help you with setting up the dashboard, or doing the dashboard for you and getting all those metrics set up if you need it as well, just to make it a bit easy. So a couple of those rates, those details are calculations. So once we get these bottom figures in the tool set, we just use calculators which divide some of the information that's coming in. So we don't need to go look for those ones. They can just be worked out from the 4 bottom ones. So the first one we want to focus on is this impressions. And I'm just going to look at the number of searches, the search results that we're showing in. And I do that in Google Search Console. So when you go into Google Search Console and you've got it running, you'll have your performance button over on the side, and you're looking at your total impressions. And here it's on a purple color. Most of them seem to show purple, but it isn't always purple, I'll just point out. That'll show me the total impressions. It is in a period, and that period is above it, so you'd probably change that to monthly and look at that monthly. It does default to 3 months when you go into it each time. If you want to worry about organic search, this tool also, because it's Google and I'm just worrying about the Google searches, I could actually get my total clicks from here as well. And they're handy. They also put in the average click-through rate for me too. So some people might not set up a dashboard and just use their Google Search Console for these figures. As I said, I love Google Search Console. So the second one is we want to get those clicks to our website. And as I just mentioned, you could, if you're just worrying about the organic search, get those clicks from Google Search Console. But the other place you can get them is Google Analytics 4, and we're looking at the users. There are a couple of places that I just want to talk about here. So if you're worrying about, yeah, I'll come back to that. Sorry. We come into Google Analytics, you're in your site, you come to the home button, it should default onto that one for you, and you'll get this widget showing up with a bar. And the one that we're worrying about is users, which means the number of people who've actually come to your website, which is what you should use for clicks. You might also see through here new users. Now that just means the number of people who've come to your website in this period that you're looking at and haven't been in the last 90 days before. So that's new users. And then you might also see sessions sometimes mentioned, and sessions are if one user comes in and then goes out and then comes back into the website and then goes out and then comes back into the website. That's 3 sessions, 1 user. Okay, I'll just point out on this screen too that the period that it's on is showing down here in this corner of the widget. You can change that to your monthly view. So that's if you're looking at all of the clicks that are coming in from all those different sources. But if you only want to look at the organic ones like we did in our Google Search Console, and I'm just pointing out this is a different client that I'm looking at here, so different figures showing. But if you want to look at the organic ones, then you come into the second button, which is your report button. And so nothing isn't coming up. There we go. Second button, the reports, the traffic acquisitions, and then you're looking over in this table for organic search and across and down the user column, and that's the figure that you'd be looking at. While I'm here, I'll just point out that some of those other prospect entry points that I talked about are showing here as well. So direct are anyone who's come with a bookmark or just types in your email address. Use a bit of a bucket for some other things, though sometimes that number will be up because unknown kind of get shoved in there. Your referrals will show here. So if you want to know how many people came from a different website to yours, and there's some further reports you can go to drill into which people sent them. Organic shopping if you've got Google Merchant Center. Paid search is your Google Ads, and organic social is your things like Facebook. So yeah, you'll see different ones showing depending on what information's feeding into your website, which prospects are feeding in. But it's the user column that you want to look at. Okay, next one. We want to look at the number of leads. Now, leads is actually different for every website because it's what are the contact pages or what is it that you're trying to track and how you get leads from your website. So it might come through on Google Analytics 4 directly if we've got those pages, those thank you pages that we're going to, or it's going to come into Google Analytics 4 from the Google Tag Manager with the buttons that we set up. So to look at that, I go into Google Tag Manager, and if I have only one type of lead in there, or I'm worrying about all my leads, then I would just go to the home page, and if you've got events set up, they should show in this widget. And I think I may have circled the wrong one. Yeah, sorry, it's key events. Sorry, I circled the wrong one. Key events is the one that you're looking at. Once again, you're going to look at the number of days and make sure you're doing the right period that you want to look at. You could also break it down because you might have lots of different events that you want to look at and see. If I had a
thank you.
Sorry, if I have an event like a newsletter that I want to track, how many leads I'm getting from there, if I want to track how many people came through my contact form, how many people came from this freebie, I might set them up as different events. And then when I come in and track them in analytics, I'm going to the report button, the engagement section, down to the events. All of the events will list with the name that I gave them. And then I'm looking across to the total users again. Okay. Now, I shrank the page or cut the page and realized afterwards the date changer, because I do need to point out the dates. You always need to make sure you're getting the right period. It's up in the grey header section over to the right. I cut it off. Then if I was looking at the pages, so those thank you pages where I'm coming through and I want to look at pages, also really interesting screens if you want to look at and see which of your blogs are giving you traffic, that sort of thing. Once again, the reports, engagement, down to the page and screen area. You can look through for the actual page URL. So it's your website / and then this ending. When you see just the /, that's the root page. That's your home page of your site. So you look through, you can actually use the search bar here if you've got your name of your page. So you don't have to sort through because you might have lots of pages. And once again, you're looking in that users column. And I'm pointing out the date up in that corner. I cut it off as well. Okay, and then finally, the tracking, last one is tracking those sales. Now, you might have another piece of software where you're tracking those sales. You can actually, if you use another piece of software, you can use Zapier and link from that piece of software to put it into a Google Sheet, and then it will feed into your Looker Studio if you're wanting to see things over time. So Google Sheets become very handy in that regard. Okay. Now, I know that you're going to ask me, what is a good rate? Because everyone asks me. And the short answer is, well, actually, I said this to Cheryl before, and she said, not 0. And I said, that's good. That is right. But it's actually better than last month's is a good rate, or better than last year's is a good rate. So that's what you want to think of. It is actually per website. But I also know that some of you might be starting out and just want to have some figure to go from. So click-through rates, that first rate from your impressions to your website, it really does depend where all your search sits on the web page. because higher click-through rates if it's in the top 3 positions, lower click-through rates as you go down the page, and lower still when you go over the pages. But on average, think of 3% as your average. So if you're doing 3%, that's okay, that's good. If you're under 3%, you probably want to be working on it. And I would look, from an SEO's point of view, I actually look at those per page, then go into each page and see which impressions they're getting and how many clicks they're getting through Google Search Console. Lead conversion rates, so the number of leads that you get once they do get to your website. That averages out on web pages for forms to be about 1.7%. If you're doing well, you might be getting a lot more than that. So people can get 12%. Ranges really from 1 to 12%. And it also differs across the industries as to how people do fill out the forms. So I've given you some stats here of some different industries, and you can see the differences in their averages. Once again, if you're getting 3%, then you're really doing quite well. So that's just something to keep in mind. Sales conversion rates, well, mine are pretty good. You have to look at your own. You have to look at your history for those ones. There's a big variance on that. And it also depends on your sales pitch structure, if you're just doing it by email, if you're doing it in person, that sort of things. But it is an important one to track. Okay, so the final question that I wanted to go through was, do I actually need to get a new website, or do I need SEO because I'm not getting the traffic I want? There's a couple of parts to this answer. If you have a site that has products for sale and you don't have an e-commerce website, an online shop, then you probably should consider a website redevelopment for you. So you don't have that extra step where people are actually dropping out of the sales cycle. But of course, you have to balance that with the cost of adding that e-commerce site because they are more expensive. Secondly, if your website is not good for mobile, I would consider either tweaks, if it's possible on your website, to make it better. Or if your website theme doesn't change well for mobile responsiveness, then I'd consider a website redevelopment to make sure it's mobile friendly and fast on mobiles. And that's because Google really does care about mobile. In fact, the indexing that it does is now on mobile. So when it looks at how fast your website is, it looks at it on mobile. That's when it's taking it into account. So when it's rating you, it's on mobile. So you've got to make sure your mobile is good. If you can get away with making changes to make it good with your tweaks, do it. If not, then you might have to consider that redo. In terms of our rates and our impressions, if you don't have good impression numbers, so all of this column at the left, or if your click-through rate is not good, that's usually a signal for SEO work needing to be done, or possibly ads needing to be done if you need it increased in a short term and a quick turnaround. So understanding your numbers here is important to work out which area needs the work. So sometimes going through and working out those impressions and finding out where you're not getting enough impressions is important. So that's where we work with SEO. We try and improve your rates, we move you up the page, and hopefully then you're getting a higher click-through rate to your website. If it's your lead conversion rates that are low and need improvements, that's where you really need to look at the tweaks on your website. Now, it could just be small changes, like a change to your call to action to be more prominent. Sometimes it's just a small thing like changing the color of the button can make a significant increase in the conversion rate. One of the things I also like to point out is if you're getting them to fill out forms, the more boxes there are, the more people drop out. So if you want to increase that conversion rate, just have the boxes that they need to fill out. We're lazy. We don't want to fill out boxes. So if you want them to do that, make sure your forms are as optimized as possible. Sometimes SEO can help in this area. And usually that's when we're determining if the traffic that's coming through isn't really the right sort of traffic, because you might be getting a whole lot of people coming to your website and it's not actually going to do anything for your website. They're not interested in buying from you. They've just come for a different reason. I'm going to use an example in Cheryl's case with the WNA. One of their traffic pools, or one of the great searches in their list, is the story of the Chinese bamboo tree. Great story, very enthusing for me to do, but people that are searching for that are not really searching for anything to do with women's networking. So it's a great blog, but it doesn't help the traffic. It's all right. She's got lots of other traffic coming from other areas, so it's okay. But if that was your only blog that was pulling in your traffic, then I would look at maybe turning some of those blogs off, because they're not actually giving you the right people and they're just distorting your figures. So that's where I'd look at there. And of course, the last one, I haven't circled it, but the sales conversion rate, if it's doing poorly, then once again, it's the leads coming through, if they're the right leads, and your process on how you convert over to sales. Okay, I've got time. I think I've got time to slip in my extra 2 points. So I've got a couple of tips for you. One of them is to how you can track your Google Business Profile. So the problem with Google Business Profile in Google Analytics is that it just gets bunched in with your organic search bucket. It's not clearly defined. These are the ones that come from Google Business Profile. And it's really important to see how that's actually giving you traffic. So to be able to really track it, you need to make a change on your Google Business Profile itself. So you need to change the website that it sends your traffic to. And I've given it here on the screen. What you need to do is change the website to, obviously you change your website URL bit. So in my case, I'd put https://www.automatenow.com.au/ and then this bit of text, the question mark, UTM_source equals Google, and that's the and symbol, just looks a bit funny in this font. UTM_medium equals organic, and UTM_campaign equals GBP. This is using UTMs, which are, you'll see these in marketing, lots of email links, add these onto the end, and they just determine where the information's coming from, what type of medium it is, and then you can put the campaigns in. So we put GBP for Google Business Profile. There's no spaces and everything's lowercase. That means that once you've put that in place on your Google Business Profile, when you go to Google Analytics, you can actually search for the pages that include the GBP, and then you can, all the campaigns include GBP, and see the traffic amounts that are coming from it. I'm actually considering putting up a YouTube video on that, just to explain that a bit easier for people. And the reason I'm using UTMs is because when cookies disappear, and they will, Google's just pushed it out as long as they can, and they're fighting it. But when they do disappear for privacy reasons, then UTMs will still work. So I use these in ads, Facebook ads, where all those people can't get because iOS stopped cookies. I can still get the information because I have UTMs on it. Email campaigns, all these sort of things to track my funnels. The second tip is Google Analytics 4 has alerts available in it. So if you want to track that you had a big drop or a big increase happen on your website on certain metrics, then you can actually set it up to send you an email when that happens. And all you have to do is on your home page, a bit strange to get to, but there's a view all insights, an arrow, usually near your insights down the page. And then you get to that page and you can press the create button and you can actually set up some alerts. I would look at what's your normal variance before you go setting up a 1% variance or something like that. So you don't get too many alerts. I use it really for dramatic alerts. That might be that I've lost a main keyword, so I need to work on that, or if new competitors come in and taken my keyword, or a Google update's really affected my traffic, or maybe some people might use it because their website might have an error and they're not actually getting any traffic. So it would be a quick alert because you want that. You don't want to have to wait till the end of the month to realize that these things have been stopping you getting leads. Okay, I mentioned earlier that I can help with dashboards. I've got a special for you guys for July that I'll do a dashboard for you for $165, doing that basic dashboard with the graphs underneath it. I also do the similar thing for Google Ads as well. So just contact me if you're interested in getting that done. And I do like to make things as simple for my small business owners as possible. So if you are in Brisbane, I have a workshop for social media, and we're going to get your social media posts done forever in one day. We use a lot of AI and some templates to do that. So anyone in Brisbane, come for the day and get yours done. So that's in Wynnum, and the website's www.automatenow.com.au/forever. And of course, if you want to contact me, I have lots of different ways. Just basically use the @AutomateNow. Follow me for any extra courses and services that I have. I'm pausing there finally, and going to go through and see if you've got any questions or anything I should look at on the chats.
Thank you very much, Nikki, and we will invite people to come on with questions. I don't know about you, but I was looking on my other screen at my website while you were talking and trying to see some things and see, do some things. I think probably one really basic question that I have is for people who are running a small business. Firstly, I love the idea of setting up the analytics notifications and getting that right, so that at least you get that push through. But really, realistically, how often should we be having a look at the data, having a look at our website functionality, and making sure, I guess for you, you're in it every day. That is your business. But for someone like Sarah or Sigrid or Joanne, how often should we actually be going in there and doing this? Is there any sort of methodology around that?
Yeah, look, I definitely would set up the alerts so that you're getting any dramatic changes quickly because you want to address them straight away. But otherwise, I would actually probably set it up to just look at it monthly.
Monthly.
Monthly is fine. And because for you to see the effect of some of the changes you might make, it's not going to happen straight away. You need to see those effects. So if you make changes in SEO terms, if you make changes on your website for some wording changes and things like that, I'd go and index them straight away. So Google sees them straight away. But in some cases, it might be a couple of months before you actually see if that has actually changed how your conversions rates have gone.
Yeah.
But I definitely track monthly. So I look at things each month and do any analysis and work out what I need to do. And I'm looking at those graphs on a monthly basis. I don't really drill into days unless there's been some dramatic thing that's happened that I want to work out. Why did suddenly everyone go to my website on that day? Oh, that's because I put out a post, so that really worked well. So that's
Is it particularly, like, say, for example, if you were running a campaign or a sales campaign or some special offer, that's when it's really, really relevant to do that tracking, to see if it worked.
Yeah, look, definitely have to do it when you're tracking a campaign. And then I'd probably pull it into weeks that I'm looking at it rather than months.
Yeah.
You should always be looking monthly for your SEO. Your website is out there and is a campaign in itself. Just a little heads up in terms of ads, because I do ad management as well. With ads, people forget that there's a lead time. They get the ads out there and they think, I'm going to get things straight away. You usually have a lead time before they start working. And also don't change things too often because you can't tell if things have actually made an effect. So with ads, I actually only change things once every month most of the time. 3 weeks minimum is the minimum between changes that maximum. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't make changes within 3 weeks at least.
Yeah.
Mostly it's monthly because you've got to see the effect of the change you made.
Yeah.
And see if that's
give
working.
it time.
So things like those. If you want to change a button on a screen, change the color of that. Give it a month to see if that actually made an effect. Sorry, the dog's barking. Hopefully that's not coming through too loud.
Sigrid, I think you have a question.
Yeah, look, that was a really good presentation, and Nikki, from what I saw, came in a bit late. Sorry about that. Look, everything has changed with the Google SEO scenario in the time that, since I did that in the marketing agency. And I have to admit, I'm not really following it at all for myself these days. And would you agree that there are some different scenarios? So, for example, I'm not expecting to make sales off the website, of my website at all, because of the type of services I offer. I do look at traffic in regards to sending traffic there actively and to see how many page views there were, so that I can kind of, just have a look at that people actually followed my social media post direction to go and have a look at that. Would you say that it's more important to some and less important to others, depending on what the website's purpose actually is for the business?
Yeah, look, I think you've got some purpose in there anyway. So it just means the metrics that you're focusing on would be different. So in your case, you wouldn't be doing so much of along the line. You'd be worrying about that prospect and that impressions and pulling in from there. So I'd be focusing on those metrics and seeing how those metrics are going over time and the click-through on each of those. Because the click-through is important. So in terms of the search engines, your search results show, and it shows your meta title and your meta description. And a lot of people don't realize that, and that's what they need to focus on. The wording of that needs to be appealing, and maybe changes on that will make an effect on their click-through, because people will see theirs and go, it might be, in the case of a blog, it might be that yours says the 10 best, and yet there's someone else has a 15 best. So you have the 16 best, they might click through to yours. So yeah, there is a purpose for having the website up. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the website there at all. I mean, some people have a website so that they seem like a professional business. That might be their only reason for having a website. But in most cases, you are trying to get leads, you are trying to get sales. So I don't think, I think there always is a purpose for the metrics. But yeah, once again, either the channel or the across.
For sure. Thank you. Yeah, right. I had
All
another
right.
question, just
Sorry, just any final questions? We're just on time, but if anyone had any final questions before we wrap up today? Of course, if you've got more detailed questions or you need more detailed help, which is definitely me, reach out to Nikki directly.
Yeah.
As you can
Or-
see, she has
Yeah.
her dashboard special, and I think even to have that set up as a basic so that you can see that that's done for you, and then you can just access that information, I think is a good basic tool for us so that we don't have to dive in. It's a bit like, you know, you can know how to fix the engine, but the best start is to just know a good mechanic. So I certainly put myself in that category. So thanks so much, Nikki, for today's session. We will make both the recording and Nikki's presentation available to you. And yes, please reach out to her if you need any assistance. Thanks again, Nikki. Much appreciated. Follow Nikki online because I know that she shares a lot of information and tips in her social media feed and her YouTube. So a great way to get additional information there. That's all we have time for today. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and look forward to seeing you soon. For those who may be able to join us, it's a Wednesday, which means we have our weekly Wednesday catch up at 4:30 p.m. And you can join us for that. It's a virtual networking opportunity. Pop in and say hello.